See on TV where, let's say, Andrew Chang, I think he's called, he does the segment about that. So it informs people about a topic, therefore helping them to create an opinion. CBC Radio often talks about things or decides not to talk about things. But when they talk about things, they don't always define it or help people understand what it means, right? There's a lot of the First Nations people talking now about their land, and some are saying, I'm not sure if they are First Nations, but they're saying, how will this have a positive impact on our youth and our communities? And that's the conversation Indigenous and non-Indigenous should be saying, and that's what CBC should be promoting. For example, progress is not like for Indigenous communities that want to go back to their cultural ways. Progress has nothing to do with capitalism or mining or fossil fuel industry. Those things were not there before. It's not part of their culture. If they want that to be part of their culture, whether they believe the resources or money they receive will be used in the right way or not, it's just not their old ways. Also, money is not what's going to help their kids. It's not just a wellness center or a big house where the teachings are capitalistic or tribe versus tribe mentality or intellectual laziness promoting or developing a victim type personality. It requires real experts. Now it's either that there are people who are in those jobs right now should be saying we're not expert enough, just like when I taught basic counseling skills to people that were already counseling people with trauma in the north of Uganda, in some of those refugee centers sometimes, is they're not trained to help. So it's got to be quality people, and quality requires a lot less money to the elites of Indigenous or non-Indigenous communities than you realize. Quality for the next generation can be scientifically measured, and it's not about who gets the job in the community or outside the community. It's somebody like me, for example, that wants to be observed, that puts the employer or the community on probation to have me there as much as I am on probation, and I want it as transparent as possible. So that's the kind of candidates you want to hire, except that I don't know anybody else that's like that. So that's the conversations you need to have. And yes, Carney was voted in for a particular fictional tariff war. I'm not saying there's no arguing over the price of import and export things, but really, if you solve this and there's a miracle and every country has a deal with, the new dictator of the world tomorrow, it doesn't solve the problems of the human condition. It's just one tiny little fictional distraction. And why I say fictional is it relates to a paradigm like money, which is fictional. You got to believe in it, to partake in it, and to give it power. And it only gives power to the elites. Again, the monetary paradigm only gives power to the elites. It's never distributed fairly in a society that claims to be democratic, but that is largely controlled by ideologies of capitalism. Capitalism will always separate more and more of the rich and the poor. It'll never make us more human or act in more human ways with each other, humane ways. So some patterns I'm picking up, the Vatican got the status they got now by being allies of the forces of evil during World War II, okay? Do your research. It's very, very shameful that people would not know this or participate in a religion like this and not say that. Now, if Carney is still trying to get a deal with somebody who actually promotes more and more people to go in their communities without showing badges, without doing due process, with no uniforms, no identification, allowed to wear masks and not say who they are, sounds like some books I've read or movies I've seen from the 80s, storyline, also fictional. And so if Carney wants to make a deal with somebody like that, like Trump, instead of just prolonging it and making Trump sweat and developing backup plans that we have to make less and less deals with the United States, then it looks like Canada's trying to make a deal with the bad guys to become partially protected from the bad guys in another Vatican. So it's ridiculous. So if I was Prime Minister Carney and Trump or some other president would say, God bless America. Oh, can I stop you there? So God bless, like who's this God? What's their priorities? And how do you define America? Because that's a continent. And we might not, as part of that continent, describe your fictional God the same way you do. So that kind of language has to end. You can't include any more fictional conversations with the non-fictional conversations. You have to say, hey, can we be real? Or I was under the impression we'd have a reality-based conversation, no fiction, just non-fiction. I would, as an Homo sapien, be able to do this. Now, for any indigenous communities that want to kind of get into these infrastructure or energy sectors, is they should be on oversight by some of their own communities members that form a committee that make sure that it is good for the culture or the human condition related aspect of their own people. It shouldn't be about money coming in that's never distributed fairly or used properly, and that again doesn't bring them back to what they claim is part of their healing to get back their culture. Because I tell you, it's very hard to see an indigenous and non-indigenous elite act any differently. It's very hard to see this. So again, people, stop having conversations of business as usual that never move forward. You continue to devolve yourselves within the realms of the human condition, and you believe you just need a better economist to fix things that are caused by economics. It's hard not to see you as totally developmentally disabled and retarded as a species, and I worry about all your children because of this.